Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the cruiser Liberty, watching the massive alien station grow larger on his screen. 3 human ships moved slowly toward Nexus Prime, his cruiser Liberty, the destroyer Freedom, and the smaller frigate Independence. They looked tiny compared to the giant station that floated in space like a metal city. "Captain, we're getting signals from 12 different alien species," said Lieutenant Amy Brooks from her communications station. "They're all watching our approach." Morrison nodded but said nothing. His hands were sweaty inside his gloves. This was humanity's first real chance to join the galaxy's big players. Earth had been alone among the stars for so long. Now they were finally meeting the Galactic Council, the group that controlled trade and territory in this part of space. Commander Lisa Hayes checked her tactical displays. "Sir, I'm counting over 200 alien ships around the station. Some of them are huge. That Zephyrian dreadnought is 3 times our size." "Stay calm, Commander," Morrison said quietly. "We're here to talk, not fight." Ambassador Karen Walsh walked onto the bridge. She was a small woman with gray hair, but she carried herself like someone who had negotiated with world leaders back on Earth. Today she wore her best diplomatic uniform, dark blue with gold trim. "Captain, are we ready?" she asked. "As ready as we can be, Ambassador. Chief Carter says all systems are working properly." Ben Carter's voice came over the intercom from the engine room. "We're running smooth, Captain. These old ships might not look like much, but they'll get us home." The Liberty shook slightly as they entered the station's docking area. Alien ships of all shapes and sizes surrounded them. Some looked like metal insects. Others were smooth and white like pearls. A few seemed to be made of crystal that glowed with inner light. "Docking complete, sir," reported Lieutenant Brooks. "The aliens are requesting that we come aboard for the meeting." Morrison looked at Ambassador Walsh. "You sure about this?" She straightened her jacket. "We've come too far to turn back now. Earth needs this, Captain." The meeting room inside the Yao station was enormous. 12 different alien species sat around a circular table that was bigger than a basketball court. The humans took their seats at the small section marked for new applicants. Morrison felt like a child sitting at the adults' table. The Zephyrian representative spoke first. Admiral Kexitar was a tall reptile with golden scales that caught the light when he moved. His voice was deep and seemed to echo from multiple throats. "So these are the humans," he said, looking at them like they were insects. "How small." A clicking sound came from across the table. The Hive Queen Zizak was an insect-like creature, with 4 arms and compound eyes. When she spoke, her voice sounded like metal scraping on metal. "3 ships," she clicked. "Only 3 ships. How do they expect to join the Council with such a tiny fleet?" Ambassador Walsh stood up. "Honored representatives, Earth comes to you in peace. We may be new to space travel, but we are eager to learn and contribute to galactic civilization." Laughter filled the room. Not human laughter. The sounds that came from the alien representatives were harsh and mocking. The Vorthak representative, a being made of what looked like living smoke, spoke without moving what might have been its mouth. "Contribute? What could a species that controls only one star system possibly contribute to us?" Admiral Kekstar leaned forward. "Your ships are ancient by our standards. Your weapons are primitive. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Why should we waste our time?" Commander Hayes whispered to Morrison. "Sir, their scans are very aggressive. They're not just looking. They're studying our ships like we're some kind of museum exhibit." Morrison kept his face blank, but inside he was angry. These aliens weren't just rejecting Earth's application, they were insulting humanity itself. Ambassador Walsh tried again. "We understand we have much to learn. That's why we're here. Earth has resources, skilled people, and a strong desire for peace." More laughter. A new voice spoke up. This one belonged to a craven, a species that looked like armored bears walking on 2 legs. "Peace? You speak of peace when you can't even defend your own shipping lanes? We've heard reports of human merchant ships being attacked by pirates. Where is your mighty fleet then?" The other aliens seemed to find this very funny. Some made sounds that might have been their version of laughter. Others simply stared at the humans with what looked like amusement. Admiral Kextar stood up to his full height, which was nearly 3 meters tall. The Council has made its decision. Humanity's application for membership is rejected. You are also denied observer status. Ambassador Walsh's face went pale. Rejected? But we haven't even presented our full case yet. There is no need, the Zephyrian said coldly. A species with 3 small ships and 1 barely defended world has nothing to offer the Council. You are children playing with toys while adults conduct real business. The Hive Queen clicked her approval. Return to your little planet, mammals. Perhaps in a few hundred years, when you have grown up, we might consider listening to you again. The Vorthak added, if you survive that long, the galaxy is dangerous for weak species. Morrison felt his hands form fists under the table. He wanted to say something to defend humanity's honor, but Ambassador Walsh caught his eye and shook her head slightly. We understand, she said quietly. Thank you for your time. As the humans left the meeting room, Morrison could hear the aliens still talking about them. Words like primitive, weak, and amusing followed them down the corridor. Back on the Liberty, the mood was dark. The crew knew from their captain's face that things had gone badly. Orders, sir? Asked Commander Hayes. Morrison looked at the alien station on his screen, then at the hundreds of ships surrounding them. Somewhere out there, he knew hostile eyes were watching, calculating, planning. Set course for Earth, he said finally. We're going home. But as the 3 human ships began their journey away from Nexus Prime, Morrison noticed something. Several alien fleets were moving into formation behind them. The mockery was over. Now came something much more dangerous. He touched his console and sent a coded message toward Earth. Package delivered. Response required. The aliens thought they had seen everything humanity could offer. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The 3 human ships moved slowly away from Nexus Prime. Captain Morrison sat in his command chair, staring at the main screen. Behind them, the alien station grew smaller, but the shame felt bigger with each passing minute. Captain, said Commander Hayes quietly, the crew is asking questions. They want to know what happened in there. Morrison rubbed his forehead. How could he tell them that humanity had been rejected like children asking to sit with adults? That the most powerful beings in the galaxy had laughed at Earth's hopes? Tell them the truth, Commander, the aliens said no. They think we're too weak to matter. Lieutenant Brooks turned from her station. Sir, I'm picking up chatter from the alien fleets. They're not trying to hide their communications. It's like they don't care if we hear them. What are they saying? Brooks looked uncomfortable. They're making jokes about us, sir. Betting on how long Earth will last once word gets out about our situation. Some species are already talking about raiding our shipping lanes. The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. Without the protection of galactic law, human merchant ships would become easy targets. Pirates and hostile aliens would see Earth as defenseless prey. Ambassador Walsh walked onto the bridge. Her diplomatic smile was gone, replaced by tired lines around her eyes. Captain, I need to send a message to Earth Command. They need to know we failed. Ambassador, Morrison said carefully. This isn't your fault. Those aliens made up their minds before we even spoke. Maybe, she said. But Earth was counting on us. Now what happens to our colonies? Our trade routes? Without Council protection, we're alone out here. Chief Carter's voice came over the intercom. Captain, I'm getting an encrypted signal from Earth, priority channel, eyes only. Morrison looked around the bridge. I'll take it in my ready room. The small room next to the bridge felt cramped as Morrison activated the secure terminal. The EI face that appeared on the screen belonged to Admiral Steve Parker, head of Earth's Space Command. The man looked older than Morrison remembered. Jake, Parker said without greeting. I saw your coded message. The aliens rejected us? Completely, sir. They wouldn't even give us observer status. Called us children with toys. Parker nodded like he had expected this. And they're following you? Morrison frowned. How did you know? Because aliens like that always push to see how far they can go. They see weakness and they have to test it. Are you ready for the next part? Next part, sir? Parker leaned closer to the screen. Operation Lazarus is now active. You know what that means, Captain. Morrison felt his heart beat faster. Operation Lazarus was something they had planned but hoped never to use. It meant Earth had been preparing for this exact situation. Are you sure, Admiral? Once we activate Protocol 7, there's no going back. I'm sure. Those aliens want to. See what happens when they push humanity? Let's show them. You have your orders, Captain. The screen went dark. Morrison sat alone for a long moment, thinking about what was coming. Then he returned to the bridge. Commander Hayes, Chief Carter, report to my ready room. Now. When his senior officers arrived, Morrison sealed the door. What I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room until I give the word. Hayes and Carter exchanged glances. The fleet we brought here, Morrison continued, was never meant to be our only military force. We're bait people. While the aliens were busy laughing at our 3 little ships, Earth's real defense force has been getting ready. Carter's eyes went wide. You're talking about the black projects? The ones we weren't supposed to know about? All of them. And more. For 50 years, while Earth was exploring space and building colonies, we were also building the most powerful hidden fleet in this part of the galaxy. Hayes shook her head. But sir, how could we hide something that big? The aliens have scanners, spy networks. Morrison smiled for the first time since leaving the station. We hid it the same way we hid our real military strength throughout human history. We made our enemies think they saw everything when they saw nothing at all. Back on the bridge, Dr. Rachel Kim was running scans on the alien ships that were following them. She was the fleet's science officer, a quiet woman who usually stayed in her lab. Today, she was very busy. Captain, she said, I'm reading the alien ship signatures. Their shields, weapons, armor thickness. Should I stop? They might notice. Keep scanning, Doctor. But make it look like you're admiring their technology. Kim smiled. I can do that. These aliens seem to enjoy showing off. Lieutenant Brooks reported more alien communications. Sir, 3 different species have sent battle groups to follow us. The Zephyrians, the Hive, and the Craven military. They're not hiding it either. How many ships total? 47 combat vessels, sir. They're calling it an escort mission, but their weapons are powered up. Commander Hayes checked her tactical display. Captain, at current speed, we'll reach Earth space in 6 days. Those alien ships will be right behind us. Morrison nodded. That's exactly what we want, Commander. Let them follow us home. Let them think they're about to destroy a defenseless world. He activated his personal communicator and sent a coded signal toward Earth. The message was simple. The fish are taking the bait. On Luna Base, Colonel Tim Shaw received the message and smiled. Around him, technicians worked at dozens of control stations. Hidden throughout the Sol system, weapons platforms and cloaked ships waited for their orders. Back aboard the Liberty, Ambassador Walsh found Morrison in his ready room. Captain, I keep thinking about what they said, about us being children with toys. Morrison looked up from his reports. Ambassador, do you know how human children learn to fight? What do you mean? They watch, they listen, they let the bigger kids think they're weak. Then, when the time is right, they show what they've really learned. Walsh frowned. Are you saying we planned this rejection? I'm saying we planned for every possibility, including this one. As the human ships continued toward Earth, the alien fleets followed like wolves tracking wounded prey. They had no idea they were flying into the most carefully planned trap in human history. On the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Kextar studied the human ships ahead of them. Pathetic vessels, he told his officers. When we reach their homeworld, we'll broadcast the destruction across the galaxy. Every species will see what happens to those who waste the Council's time. Behind him, his tactical officer checked their weapons. Admiral, our scans show their ships are exactly as weak as they appeared. No hidden weapons, no advanced shields. Kextar's golden scales glittered as he laughed. Of course not. These humans are exactly what they seem, a primitive species that got lucky enough to build a few spaceships. The alien fleet continued, following the humans toward Earth. confident in their superior numbers and technology. They had no way to know that every step of their journey was being watched, tracked, and prepared for by the most patient military minds humanity had ever produced. The trap was set. Soon it would be sprung. 5 days had passed since leaving Nexus Prime. The 3 human ships continued their journey toward Earth, looking defeated and slow. Behind them, 47 alien warships followed like hungry wolves. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Liberty, watching the tactical display. The alien fleets had arranged themselves in attack formation, no longer pretending this was just an escort mission. "Captain," said Commander Hayes, "long-range sensors show we're 12 hours from Earth space. The alien fleets are moving closer." Morrison nodded. He had been expecting this. "What's their formation?" "The Zephyrians are taking the center with their crystal dreadnoughts. The Hive swarm ships are spreading out on the flanks. The Craven battlecruisers are moving to block any escape routes." Lieutenant Brooks looked up from her communications station. "Sir, I'm intercepting their battle plans. They're not even encrypting them anymore. They want us to know what's coming." "What are they saying?" Brooks swallowed hard. "They plan to disable our ships first, then broadcast the attack on Earth to the entire galaxy. They want every species to see what happens when someone challenges the Council." Dr. Kim was still running her scans, pretending to study the alien technology. Over the past 5 days, she had mapped every ship in the enemy fleet. Their weapons, shields, weak points, everything. "Captain," she said quietly, "I've completed the analysis. The data has been transmitted to Earth." Morrison smiled slightly. The aliens thought Dr. Kim was just a curious scientist admiring their superior technology. They had no idea she was actually gathering intelligence for the most important battle in human history. Chief Carter's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, we're getting another coded message from Earth Command. Put it through to my ready room." Morrison walked to his private chamber and activated the secure terminal. Admiral Parker's face appeared on the screen, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him, Morrison could see the command center of Luna Base, filled with officers working at control stations. "Jake," Parker said, "are you ready?" "The alien fleets are in perfect position, sir. 47 ships, all focused on us." "Good. In 10 hours, you'll enter the outer edge of the Sol system. That's when we spring the trap." Morrison could see the tension in Parker's face. "Admiral, are you sure our people are ready for this? We've never tested the full system in actual combat." "Our people have been ready for 50 years, Captain. Every weapons platform, every hidden ship, every defense system we've built has been leading to this moment." Parker leaned closer to the screen. "Jake, I need you to understand something. What happens in the next few hours will change everything. After today, the galaxy will know that humanity is not weak. Are you prepared for that responsibility?" Morrison thought about his crew, about Earth, about all the human colonies that needed protection. "Yes, sir, we're ready." "Then let's show these aliens what humans can really do." The transmission ended. Morrison returned to the bridge where his officers were watching the approaching alien fleets. "All hands," Morrison announced over the ship's intercom, "this is the captain. In a few hours we will enter Earth space. I want everyone to know that what happens next was planned from the beginning. Stay at your stations, follow orders, and remember that Earth is counting on us." On the UEO bridge of the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Kextar was preparing for the attack. His golden scales seemed to glow with excitement as he studied the human ships ahead. "Signal the fleet," he told his communications officer. "When we enter the human system, we destroy their orbital defenses first. Then we target their homeworlds, major cities." His tactical officer checked the weapon systems. "Admiral, our scans still show only minimal defenses around Earth. A few orbital platforms, some patrol ships, nothing that can stop us." Kextar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Of course not. These humans are exactly what they appear to be. Weak, primitive, defenseless." The Hive Queen Zizak was equally confident aboard her flagship. Her 4 arms worked at different control panels as she coordinated her swarm ships. "The human vessels are slowing down," reported one of her officers. They appear to be having engine problems. Zach's compound eyes glittered. Perfect. They're trying to delay us, hoping for rescue that will never come. Increase speed. I want to reach their system before they can send a distress call. On the Craven command ship, General Vex was already planning the victory celebration. The bear-like alien had ordered his fleet to record everything for broadcast across the galaxy. This will be remembered as the day the Council showed what happens to species that waste our time, he told his officers. Every world will see the price of challenging us. As the combined alien fleet approached the edge of Earth's solar system, automated systems throughout the Sol system began to activate. On Luna Base, Colonel Tim Shaw watched dozens of status displays turn from red to green. All weapons platforms online, reported his tactical officer. Cloaked ships are in position. Defense grid is fully operational. Shaw nodded. Signal Admiral Parker. Tell him we're ready. Hidden among the asteroids, disguised as mining stations and research outposts, hundreds of human warships powered up their engines for the first time in years. Their crews had been waiting, training, preparing for this exact moment. Captain Susan Ford stood on the bridge of the Destroyer Squadron flagship. Around her, 24 advanced destroyers waited in the asteroid belt, completely invisible to the approaching alien fleet. All ships report ready, Captain, said her first officer. Ford smiled grimly. Then let's give our guests a proper welcome. Back, aboard the Liberty, Morrison watched as Earth appeared on the main screen. The blue and white planet looked peaceful, undefended, exactly like the aliens expected. Captain, said Hayes, the alien fleets are moving into attack formation. They'll be in weapons range in 30 minutes. Morrison activated his personal communicator. This is Liberty Actual. Package delivered. All units prepare for Operation E. Lazarus. Throughout the Sol system, the response was immediate. On hidden bases, aboard cloaked ships inside disguised weapons platforms, thousands of human military personnel prepared for the most important battle in their species' history. Lieutenant Brooks turned to Morrison with wide eyes. Sir, I'm getting responses from everywhere. How many ships do we actually have? Morrison looked at his crew, these brave people who had played their parts perfectly. Lieutenant, you're about to find out exactly what humanity has been building while the galaxy wasn't watching. The alien fleets entered the Sol system confident in their superiority, ready to make an example of the weak humans who had dared to ask for respect. They had no idea they were flying into the largest military trap ever set by any species in galactic history. The trap was ready. In minutes it would snap shut. The alien fleet spread out across the Sol system like a dark cloud. 47 warships moved toward Earth, their weapons charging for the attack. Admiral Kextar stood on his bridge, watching the blue planet grow larger on his screen. Begin the assault, he ordered. Target their orbital platforms first. Make this quick. The Zephyrian dreadnoughts fired their first shots at what looked like small defense stations around Earth. The energy beams struck their targets and exploded in bright flashes. Direct hits, reported the tactical officer. Human defenses are down. But Kextar frowned. Something was wrong. The explosions looked too small, too weak. Scan those platforms again. Sir, the readings are strange. Those weren't defense stations at all. They were decoys. Before Kextar could respond, space around his fleet began to change. What had looked like empty darkness suddenly filled with light as hundreds of objects appeared from nowhere. What is happening? Kextar demanded. His science officer's voice was shaking. Sir, massive energy signatures appearing all around us, ships decloaking, weapons platforms coming online. There are hundreds of them. Captain Morrison stood on the Liberty's bridge, watching the alien fleet realize their mistake. Now, he said calmly into his communicator, show them what Earth really built. The space around the alien fleets erupted with activity. Cloaked weapons platforms revealed themselves, their missile launchers already locked onto targets. Hidden among the asteroids, disguised human warships powered up weapons that glowed like small suns. Commander Hayes stared at her tactical display, in amazement. Captain, I'm counting over 300 human ships. Where did they all come from? They were always here, Commander. We've been building this fleet for 50 years, while the galaxy thought we were just exploring space. The biggest shock came when the largest ship in human history revealed itself. The space above the alien fleet suddenly darkened as something massive blocked out the stars. The UES Leviathan decloaked directly overhead, its 3-kilometer hull, casting shadows across the enemy formation. On the Zephyrian flagship, alarms were screaming. "Admiral," shouted the tactical officer, "that ship is enormous. It's bigger than our entire battle group combined." Kextar stared at the massive human vessel in disbelief. "Impossible. Our intelligence said they had no major warships." "Our intelligence was wrong, sir. That ship has enough firepower to destroy a small moon." Admiral Steve Parker stood on the Leviathan's bridge, looking down at the alien fleets like a giant studying insects. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at control stations that managed the most advanced weapon systems humanity had ever built. "This is Admiral Parker to all alien vessels," he broadcast on all frequencies. "You are surrounded and outgunned. Power down your weapons and prepare to surrender." The response from Admiral Kextar was immediate. "Surrender? To humans? Never. All ships, attack that monster." The alien fleets opened fire on the Leviathan with everything they had. Crystal energy beams, plasma cannons, and fusion missiles struck the giant ship's shields. The attacks looked impressive, but the Leviathan didn't even slow down. "Shields holding at 98%, reported the tactical officer. Parker nodded. "Return fire. Show them the difference between their weapons and ours." The Leviathan's main guns fired once. The energy beams were so powerful they lit up the entire solar system for a moment. They struck the lead Zephyrian dreadnought and completely destroyed its shields in a single shot. "Impossible," whispered Kextar as his flagship shook under the impact. "How do humans have weapons this powerful?" Captain Susan Ford's destroyer squadron appeared from the asteroid belt, moving faster than the aliens thought possible. Her 24 ships surrounded the Hive swarm vessels before they could react. "This is Captain Ford to Hive vessels. Your ships are surrounded. Stand down immediately." "Hive Queen." Zizak clicked her mandibles in rage. "Attack. Show these mammals what the Hive can do." The swarm ships moved to surround Ford's destroyers, but the human ships were ready. Dr. Kim's earlier scans had revealed that Hive shields were weak against specific energy frequencies. The human weapons had been calibrated perfectly. Ford's destroyers fired simultaneously. Their beams cut through Hive shields like they weren't even there. Within seconds, half the swarm ships were disabled, their weapons offline and engines dead. "How?" Zizak demanded. "Our shields should have stopped those weapons." Commander Rick Stone coordinated the hidden defense platforms from Luna Base. "All platforms target the Craven battle group. Use pattern Delta 7. The Craven ships found themselves caught in a crossfire from weapons they couldn't even see. General Vex watched in horror as his powerful battle cruisers were systematically disabled by attacks coming from every direction. "Where are they shooting from?" he roared. His tactical officer was studying the scanner readings with disbelief. "Sir, there are weapons platforms everywhere, hidden in asteroids disguised as satellites built into what we thought were mining stations. The entire system is one giant fortress." Back on the Liberty, Morrison finally dropped his act of being a defeated captain. "Admiral Kextar, this is Captain Morrison. You asked how we could hide such a large military force. The answer is simple. You never asked the right questions." Kexitar's voice came back, filled with confusion and growing fear. "This is impossible. Our scouts surveyed this system. We saw only a few patrol ships." "You saw exactly what we wanted you to see," Morrison replied. "Did you really think a species that colonized 6 star systems in 50 years would be defenseless? Did you think we would come to your council without any backup plan?" Squadron leader Pete Johnson led the Leviathan's fighter wings in the final phase of the battle. 300 advanced fighters poured out of the massive ship's launch bays, moving like a coordinated swarm toward the remaining alien vessels. "All fighters, this is Squadron Leader Johnson. Disable their command ships. We want them alive to see what happens next." The fighters were faster and more maneuverable than anything the aliens had ever seen. They slipped through alien defenses, like they weren't there, targeting specific systems with surgical precision. Within minutes, the alien fleet was completely defeated, not destroyed. The humans had been careful about that. Disabled, captured, surrounded by more firepower than most species had ever seen in one place. Admiral Kextar stood on his bridge, looking at the display screens that showed hundreds of human ships surrounding his defeated fleet. The massive Leviathan hung in space above them like a metal moon. "How long?" he asked quietly. His communications officer looked confused. "Sir? How long have they been planning this?" Morrison's voice came over the communication channel. "Admiral, we weren't planning deception, we were planning for survival. When you're the new species in a hostile galaxy, you prepare for every possibility." Parker's voice joined the conversation from the Leviathan. "You came here expecting to find children playing with toys. Instead, you found adults who learned to build better toys while you weren't watching." The alien commanders looked around at their disabled fleets, at the hundreds of human warships that had appeared from nowhere, at the massive Leviathan that made their largest ships look small. For the first time in their long military careers, they understood what it meant to be completely outmatched. The trap had worked perfectly. Now came the even more interesting part, negotiating with the galaxy from a position of strength. The battle was over in less than an hour. 47 alien warships floated in space, their weapons offline and engines disabled. Around them, hundreds of human vessels maintained careful watch. The massive Leviathan hung above the defeated fleet like a metal mountain. Admiral Kextar sat in his command chair staring at the tactical display. His golden scales had lost their shine, and his voice was quiet when he spoke to his officers. "Signal the human fleet. We surrender." On the Leviathan's bridge, Admiral Parker received the surrender message with no satisfaction. This had never been about winning a battle. It had been about changing the rules of how the galaxy treated humanity. "Captain Morrison," Parker said, over the communication channel, "bring the Liberty alongside. We have some explaining to do." Morrison guided his small cruiser next to the enormous Leviathan. Compared to the giant ship, the Liberty looked like a rowboat next to an aircraft carrier. But Morrison felt proud as he looked at his crew. They had played their part perfectly. Within hours, emergency meetings were taking place across the galaxy. On dozens of worlds, alien leaders watched recordings of the battle with shock and fear. The species they had dismissed as weak children had just defeated 3 of the galaxy's major military powers. Ambassador Walsh found herself in a very different position when she was transported to the Leviathan's conference room. The same alien, representatives who had mocked her days earlier, now sat quietly around the table, looking small and defeated. "Honored representatives," she began, but her tone was different now. Stronger. "I believe we need to discuss humanity's application to the Galactic Council again." Admiral Kextar looked up from his restraints. "How is this possible? Our intelligence networks, our spy satellites, our scout ships. How did we miss a fleet this large?" Captain Morrison, now sitting at the main table instead of the applicants section, smiled slightly. "Admiral, you didn't miss anything. You saw exactly what we wanted you to see." Dr. Kim activated a holographic display that showed the Sol system. "For 50 years, while we explored space and built colonies, we were also building the most advanced defense network in this part of the galaxy. Every mining station was also a weapons platform. Every research outpost was also a military base." The display showed hundreds of hidden installations throughout the solar system. The aliens had been looking at humanity's true military strength the entire time, but they had seen only what they expected to see. Hive Queen Zack clicked her mandibles nervously. "But the cost, building so many ships in secret. How did your economy support this?" "The same way we supported everything else," Morrison replied. "By working together and planning ahead. While you were fighting each other over territory and resources, we were building something better." General Vex, the Craven commander, shifted in his chair. "Your weapons technology is far beyond what our scans indicated. How did you advance so quickly?" Captain Ford, who had joined the meeting after securing the Hive ships, answered this question. "We learned from watching you. Every alien ship that visited human space, every piece of technology we could study, every battle recording we could analyze. We took the best ideas from every species and made them better. The Vorthak representative, whose smoke-like form seemed dimmer than before, spoke in a whisper. You have been preparing for war since first contact. No, Admiral Parker said firmly. We were preparing for survival. There's a difference. War is what you brought to our system. Survival is what we built to protect ourselves. Ambassador Walsh stood up and walked to the large window that showed Earth in the distance. When we first came to your council, we came in peace. We offered friendship, trade, cooperation. You gave us mockery and threats. She turned back to face the alien representatives. Now we're going to try this again, but this time we're negotiating as equals. The formal negotiations took 3 days. The alien representatives had to contact their homeworlds, explain what had happened, and get new instructions. Meanwhile, more alien ships arrived in the Sol system, but they came to talk, not fight. The terms humanity presented were very different from their original application. Earth didn't just want membership in the Galactic Council. They wanted representation that matched their actual military and economic power. These demands are unreasonable, complained the Zephyrian representative, who had replaced Admiral Kextar. You're asking for the same status as species that have been council members for thousands of years. Morrison looked across the table at the new alien delegation. Your predecessor said we were children with toys. Do children build fleets like this? Do they plan operations that span 50 years? Do they defeat 3 major military powers in a single battle? The negotiations were tense, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The aliens had seen what humanity could do when pushed. They didn't want to find out what else Earth might have hidden throughout the galaxy. When the final agreement was signed, Earth became a full member of the Galactic Council with voting rights, protected trade status, and territorial guarantees for all human colonies. More importantly, humanity gained something they had never expected: respect. Admiral Kextar, now a prisoner aboard the Leviathan, was brought to meet Morrison one final time before being returned to his people. I have one question, Captain, Kextar said. How long have you been planning this deception? Morrison looked out at the human fleet that still surrounded the alien vessels. Admiral, this wasn't about deception. It was about patience. When a new species enters a dangerous galaxy, they have 2 choices: show their strength immediately and make enemies, or appear weak until someone forces them to reveal what they're really capable of. And we forced you. You did. You and your council decided that humanity didn't deserve respect based on 3 small ships. You never considered that those might not be the only ships we had. Kextar was quiet for a long moment. What happens now? Now we all learn to live together as equals. Your people, our people, all the species in the galaxy. The way it should have been from the beginning. 6 months later, Earth's fleet patrolled human space with the authority of the Galactic Council behind them. New colonies were established under the protection of ships like the Leviathan. Human merchants traveled safely through space, their cargo protected by law and military might. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about judging species by their appearance. Humanity had taught them that sometimes the most dangerous opponents are the ones who look weakest. Admiral Parker stood on the bridge of the Leviathan as it patrolled the border between human and Zephyrian space. Both fleets maintained respectful distances now, and both commanders exchanged polite communications when their paths crossed. Admiral, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a message from the new Galactic Council session. They're requesting Earth's position on the trade agreement with the Vorthak Collective. Parker smiled. Tell them Earth will consider the proposal, but we want to review the terms carefully. We're not in any hurry to make quick decisions. The officer nodded and sent the message. Across the galaxy, alien leaders who had once dismissed humanity now waited patiently for Earth's response to their proposals. The small fleet that had been mocked at Nexus Prime was now the diplomatic escort for the most powerful military force in the sector. Captain Morrison still commanded the Liberty, but now she flew alongside hundreds of sister ships, all bearing the flag of a species that had earned its place among the stars. Earth had come to the galaxy asking for friendship. The galaxy had offered insults instead. Now everyone had learned a valuable lesson about the difference between appearing weak and actually being weak. The humans had been patient, careful, and thorough. Now they were respected, feared, and finally recognized as the equals they had always been. Captain Zathara sat in her command chair, her blue skin glowing softly in the dim light of the bridge. The Starweaver had been traveling through empty space for 3 weeks now, searching for new worlds to add to the galactic maps. Her crew was getting restless, but that was normal on long survey missions. The silence broke when her sensor officer, Krindal, suddenly straightened up at his station. His 4 eyes widened as he stared at his screen. "Captain," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "I'm picking up something strange." Zathara turned her chair toward him. "What kind of strange?" "There's a ship out there. Unknown design, it's just drifting." The bridge went quiet. Finding unknown ships in deep space was rare. Most of the time it meant trouble. "How far?" Zathara asked. "About 2 million kilometers. It's small, maybe 1/10 our size." Zathara stood up and walked over to Krindal's station. The screen showed a rough outline of the mystery ship. It looked crude, like someone had built it in a hurry with whatever materials they could find. "Any signs of life?" she asked. Krindal ran more scans, his face grew pale. "Yes, Captain, there are life forms aboard. But that's not the strangest part." "Go on." "The ship's design, it doesn't match anything in our database. But I managed to trace its origin point." He paused, looking nervous. "It came from a world called Earth." The name meant nothing to Zathara at first. Then she remembered. "Earth? Isn't that one of those Class 15 worlds?" "Yes, Captain. Class 15. Death world. The reports say it's completely impossible for life to exist there." Zathara felt a chill run down her spine. Class 15 death worlds were the worst kind of planets in the galaxy. Extreme weather, deadly creatures, poisonous air, and natural disasters that could wipe out entire civilizations. No known species could survive on such a world, let alone build spaceships. "Are you certain about the readings?" she asked. "I've checked 3 times. The ship definitely came from Earth, and there are definitely living beings inside." First Officer Yemtai approached them, having overheard the conversation. "Captain, this could be dangerous. If something survived on a Class 15 world, we have no idea what we're dealing with." Zathara nodded slowly. Yemtai was right to be cautious, but her curiosity was stronger than her fear. In all her years exploring space, she had never encountered anything like this. "Bring us closer," she ordered, "but keep our shields up and weapons ready." The Starweaver moved toward the unknown ship. As they got closer, the details became clearer. The ship was indeed crude by galactic standards. It used simple fusion engines that were centuries behind current technology. Its hull was made of basic metals that most species had stopped using long ago. "It's like looking at something from the Dark Ages," Krindal muttered. Communications Officer Norabeth spoke up from her station. "Captain, I'm detecting some kind of signal from the ship. It's very basic, but it seems to be trying to communicate." "Can you understand it?" "I'm working on it now." Norabeth's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "It appears to be mathematical sequences, very simple ones. Like a greeting." Zathara thought for a moment. Mathematical greetings were common in first contact situations. Most species used them because math was universal. But the idea that beings from a Class 15 death world knew about first contact protocols was unsettling. "Send back a basic response," she decided. "Let them know we're here." Norabeth worked for several minutes, then sent a simple mathematical sequence back to the unknown ship. The response came almost immediately. "Captain," Norabeth said, her voice filled with surprise. "They're responding in galactic standard, basic level, but understandable." "What are they saying?" Norabeth listened to her headset, then looked up with wide eyes. "They say, 'Hello out there. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel New Horizon. We've been hoping to meet some neighbors.'" The bridge fell silent again. The casual, friendly tone of the message was not what anyone had expected from beings who had survived the impossible. Neighbors? Yemtai repeated. They're treating this like a social visit. Dr. Velnara, the ship's science officer, had been quietly running scans during the conversation. She finally spoke up. Captain, I've been analyzing the life forms on that ship. The readings are disturbing. How so? Their bone density is 3 times higher than any known species. Their muscle structure suggests they're built for extreme physical stress. And their brain activity patterns, they're unlike anything I've ever seen. Zathara felt her unease growing. Are they dangerous? I don't know. But everything about their biology suggests they evolved in an extremely hostile environment. Their bodies are designed for survival, under conditions that would kill most of us instantly. The communication system crackled again. Jake Morrison's voice came through clearly. Is anyone there? We'd really like to talk. We've been traveling for months, and you're the first other ship we've found. Zathara looked around at her crew. Fear and curiosity warred in their faces. These beings from Earth seemed friendly enough, but they came from a world that should have been impossible to survive. Captain, Norabeth said quietly. They're asking if they can come aboard. The request sent a wave of panic through the bridge crew. Inviting unknown aliens onto their ship was dangerous enough. Inviting beings from a Class 15 death world seemed like suicide. But Jake Morrison's voice had sounded so genuinely friendly, so hopeful. Zathara found herself wanting to believe that these impossible beings might be peaceful. Tell them we need time to prepare, she said finally. But yes, we'll arrange a meeting. As Norabeth sent the message, Zathara wondered what she had just agreed to. In a few hours, she would come face to face with beings who had achieved the impossible. They had not only survived on a world that should have killed them, but had built ships and traveled to the stars. The question that worried her most was simple. What kind of creatures could thrive in hell and still sound so cheerful about meeting strangers? 3 hours later, Captain Zathara stood in Docking Bay 7, watching her crew make final preparations. Security teams had set up force fields and weapon emplacements around the meeting area. Dr. Velnara held her medical scanner ready, while Krindle monitored his sensors for any sign of danger. Are you sure about this, Captain? Yemtai asked for the 3rd time. We still don't know what we're dealing with. The scans show only 3 life forms coming aboard, Zathara replied. If they wanted to harm us, they would have sent more. Dr. Velnara looked up from her readings. Captain, I've been studying their biology more closely. These humans are built like living weapons. Their reaction times are faster than our security. Systems can track, but they haven't shown any hostile behavior, Norabeth pointed out. Every message has been polite and friendly. That might make them more dangerous, Yemtai muttered. Predators often appear harmless before they strike. The docking bay's outer doors opened with a soft hiss. A small shuttlecraft entered, moving slowly and carefully. It was as crude as the main ship, but it flew smoothly. Whoever was piloting it knew what they were doing. The shuttle landed gently on the deck. For several long minutes, nothing happened. Then a door opened on the side of the craft. The first human to step out was tall and broad-shouldered. He had short brown hair and kind eyes that seemed to take in everything around him. Despite the heavy gravity and strange atmosphere of the ship, he moved easily, like he was comfortable anywhere. That must be Jake Morrison, Norabeth whispered. Behind him came a woman with blonde hair tied back in a simple style. She carried what looked like a communication device and smiled at everything she saw. The third human was a man with dark skin and alert eyes. He walked like a soldier, but his face was relaxed and friendly. Jake Morrison looked around the docking bay, then focused on the group of aliens waiting for him. His face broke into a wide smile. "Hello there," he said, raising one hand in what seemed to be a greeting gesture. "I'm Jake Morrison. Thank you so much for letting us come aboard." His voice was warm and genuine. There was no trace of fear or aggression in it. Zathara found herself relaxing slightly despite her concerns. "I am Captain Zathara," she replied, Welcome to the Star Weaver. This is Lieutenant Amy Collins, Jake said, indicating the blonde woman. She handles our communications. And this is Sergeant Pete Williams, our security specialist. Pete Williams stepped forward and nodded politely. Thank you for having us. We know this must be strange for you. Dr. Velnera stepped closer with her scanner, trying to get better readings on the humans. Amy Collins noticed the device and looked curious. Is that some kind of medical scanner? Amy asked. That's fascinating. Our equipment is much more basic. You don't mind being scanned? Dr. Velnara asked, surprised. Not at all, Jake said. We understand you need to know we're safe. Where we come from, being careful about strangers is just common sense. Dr. Velnara ran her scans while the humans waited patiently. The readings made her scales turn pale. These beings were even more dangerous than she had thought. Their bones were like metal, their muscles like cables, and their reflexes were impossibly fast. But they just stood there smiling, waiting for her to finish. Your world, Zethara began carefully. Our records say it's classified as uninhabitable. Jake laughed. Earth can be challenging, that's true, but it's home. We've learned to work with what we have. Challenging? Yemtai repeated. Our database lists constant natural disasters, extreme weather, and deadly predators. Oh, you mean like hurricanes and earthquakes? Amy said casually. Yeah, we get those. I grew up in Florida, so I'm used to hurricane season. You just prepare for them and deal with it. The alien crew exchanged horrified looks. Hurricanes were planet-killing storms on most worlds. This human spoke about them like they were minor inconveniences. What about the predators? Crindall asked. Pete Williams shrugged. Most of them leave you alone if you don't bother them. And the ones that don't, well, that's why we learned to make tools and work together. Tools? Dr. Velnara asked. Weapons mostly, Pete said matter-of-factly. Though we use them for hunting food more than fighting predators these days. The casual mention of weapons made several crew members step back. But Pete seemed to notice their reaction and quickly added, Don't worry. We didn't bring any aboard. Your ship. We're here to make friends, not enemies. Jake looked around at the nervous faces surrounding them. I think we might be giving the wrong impression. Let me try to explain better. He gestured toward a viewing port that showed Earth's sun in the distance. Our planet taught us to be tough, yes, but it also taught us to help each other. When a storm comes, neighbors work together to get through it. When someone gets hurt, everyone helps them heal. We learned that cooperation is the only way to survive. But you said you fight each other too, Yemtai pointed out. Sometimes, Jake admitted, but usually over resources or territory, and we've gotten much better at talking things out instead of fighting. Most of us, anyway. Amy Collins had been looking around the docking bay with obvious fascination. Your technology is incredible. These force fields, the artificial gravity that adjusts automatically, the translation systems that let us understand each other perfectly. We have nothing like this. How did you achieve space travel then? Crindall asked. Very carefully, Pete said with a grin, and with a lot of backup systems. When you can't rely on your equipment being perfect, you learn to plan for everything that can go wrong. Dr. Velnara finally spoke up. According to my scans, you've been in space for 6 months. In that primitive ship. 6 months isn't too bad, Jake said. We've had longer deployments. Deployments? Zethara asked. Military missions, Pete explained. Sometimes you have to stay in difficult places for extended periods. Space is actually pretty peaceful compared to some places we've been. The aliens stared at him in shock. To them, deep space was one of the most hostile environments imaginable. The idea that these humans found it peaceful was disturbing. Amy Collins noticed their expressions and laughed. I think we're scaring them, guys. Sorry about that, Jake said. We don't mean to be frightening. We're just excited to meet you. We've been hoping to find other intelligent life for centuries. Centuries? Nora Beth asked. Well, we've been wondering about it for centuries, Amy clarified. We've only been able to look for it for the past few decades. Jake looked around at the crew again. Look, I know we probably seem strange to you, But all we want is to learn about the galaxy and maybe make some friends along the way. We're explorers, not conquerors. Despite her fears, Zathara found herself believing him. There was something honest about these humans, something genuine in their curiosity and friendliness. Perhaps, she said slowly, we could continue this conversation in a more comfortable setting. Would you like a tour of our ship? Jake's face lit up. That would be amazing, thank you. As they began to walk toward the exit, Pete Williams looked back at the security setup and chuckled. You guys really don't take chances, do you? We've learned to be careful, Yemtai replied stiffly. Smart, Pete said with approval. Careful keeps you alive. The tour of the Starweaver took 3 hours. Jake Morrison, Amy Collins, and Pete Williams asked questions about everything they saw. Their curiosity seemed endless, and their ability to understand complex systems after just one explanation amazed. The crew, Dr. Velnara had set up her medical bay for a full examination of the humans. With Jake's permission, she ran every test she could think of. The results were beyond anything she had imagined. Captain, she called Zathara over to look at her readings. You need to see this. Zathara looked at the medical display and felt her blood run cold. These numbers can't be right. I've checked them 5 times. Jake Morrison's bone density is 4 times stronger than ours. His muscle fibers are designed for incredible stress. And his immune system. She paused, shaking her head. He's carrying antibodies for diseases that would wipe out entire planets. How is that possible? Earth must be even worse than we thought. His body has adapted to survive things that would kill us in seconds. In the conference room, the cultural exchange continued. Amy Collins was explaining human history to an increasingly horrified audience. The Ice Age lasted for thousands of years, she said casually. Most of the planet was covered in ice sheets kilometers thick, but humans survived by working together and adapting. Ice sheets kilometers thick? Krindal repeated weakly. That would freeze the atmosphere solid on most worlds. It was pretty cold, Amy agreed. But we learned to make fire, build shelters, and hunt for food even in those conditions. Pete Williams added, that wasn't even the worst thing that happened to us. There was this asteroid impact about 65 million years ago that killed off the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs? Yemtai asked. Giant reptiles. Some of them were bigger than your ship. They ruled the planet until the asteroid hit and changed the climate. The alien crew sat in stunned silence. An asteroid impact that could kill creatures the size of spaceships and change an entire planet's climate was beyond their comprehension. But life survived, Jake said. It always does on Earth. Life finds a way to adapt and keep going no matter what happens. Norabeth managed to find her voice. What other disasters has your world experienced? Amy thought for a moment. Well, there have been several mass extinctions. Volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun for years. Magnetic pole reversals. Climate changes that flooded continents or turned forests into deserts. And through all of this, Jake continued, different species kept evolving and adapting. By the time humans appeared, Earth had already tested billions of different survival strategies. Dr. Velnara entered the conference room, still pale from her medical readings. Jake, may I ask you about your physical condition? Sure, what would you like to know? Have you ever been seriously injured? Jake rolled up his sleeve, showing several scars on his arm. Broke this arm twice when I was young. Got bit by a snake. Once. Had surgery to remove my appendix, nothing too serious. Dr. Velnara stared at the scars. Each injury he described casually would have been fatal to most galactic species. The snake bite, she said carefully. What kind of snake? Rattlesnake. Pretty common where I grew up. The venom makes you sick, but if you get to a hospital quickly, you'll be fine. You survived being poisoned by a predator? Well, yeah. We have anti-venom for most snake bites. It's not usually a big deal unless you're really far from help. Pete Williams laughed. You should hear about the time Amy got caught in a riptide. A what? Several aliens asked at once. It's when the ocean current suddenly changes direction, Amy explained. The water pulls you out to sea faster than you can swim back. I got pulled about a kilometer offshore before the Coast Guard found me. You survived being dragged into an ocean by hostile currents? Zethara asked, her voice barely a whisper. It was scary, Amy admitted. But I knew to swim parallel to the shore until I got out of the current, then swim back. Basic water. Safety. The aliens exchanged looks of pure terror. These humans spoke about surviving things that would be recorded as natural disasters on any civilized world. Jake noticed their expressions. I'm starting to think we might be giving you the wrong idea about Earth. It's not as dangerous as we're making it sound. Not dangerous? Yemtai squeaked. Well, it can be challenging, Jake said. But most of the time, if you're prepared and careful, you'll be fine. We've learned to predict weather patterns, avoid dangerous animals, and build structures that can survive earthquakes and storms. What about war? Krindal asked quietly. Our records show humans have fought each other. The three humans grew more serious. Pete Williams answered first. Yes, we've had wars. Too many of them. But we've also learned from them. Most of the world has been at peace for decades now. What were the wars like? Dr. Velnara asked, though. She wasn't sure she wanted to know. Terrible, Jake said simply. We developed weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds. We fought battles that lasted for years. Millions of people died. The conference room fell silent. The idea of a species surviving on a Class 15 death world and then turning their survival skills against each other was almost incomprehensible. But that's why we're out here, Amy said softly. We learned that fighting each other was wasteful and destructive. We decided to focus our energy on exploration and discovery instead. You turned your weapons into tools for exploration? Norabeth asked more or less, Pete said. The rockets that brought us to space were originally designed as weapons, but we found better uses for them. Jake leaned forward. Look, I know all of this sounds frightening, but the same things that made us tough also taught us to value cooperation and peace. When you live on a world that's constantly trying to kill you, you learn that your neighbors are your most valuable resource. We help each other, Amy added. When disasters strike, humans from all over the world send aid. When someone makes a discovery, we share it with everyone. We learned that survival isn't about being the strongest individual, it's about being the strongest community. Dr. Velnara spoke up again. Jake, what do you hope to accomplish out here in space? We want to explore, learn, and meet other intelligent species like yourselves. Earth is getting crowded, so we're also looking for new places where humans might be able to live. New places to live, Zethara asked. Not to take from anyone, Jake said quickly. We're looking for empty worlds that might be suitable for human colonies, preferably places that are already challenging, since those are the kind of environments we understand best. The aliens stared at him. The idea that anyone would voluntarily seek out challenging worlds was beyond their